Welcome to Humpday Happy Hour, the webcast where dentistry meets real talk, real news, and just the right amount of sarcasm. We're pulling back the curtain on the industry, talking to experts, educators, innovators, and the everyday clinicians who are out there doing the work. There's no fluff, no filter, and definitely no sales pitch disguised as education. If it's happening in dentistry, from clinical insights to regulatory curveballs, or maybe just the latest scandal at the ADA, we are probably already talking about it. And yes, we are bringing the goods. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned doc or anyone in the dental industry. Perhaps you're a curious consumer, or maybe you're just here for the banter. We welcome you all to the show because around here, we're not just in the loop, we are in the know. Welcome, everybody, to another Hump Day Happy Hour. I'm Dr. Jennifer Bell, accompanied by my amazing friend, Dr. Chad Duplantis. We've created
Hello.
this humble little platform to make the dental world just a little bit smaller, but maybe a whole lot more fun. Today, we have a great guest. We're really excited to dive into that. We're so proud to be here with you. But first, let's get on with a little banter. How are you, my friend?
I am good. I am good. It's funny before the show, we were talking with our guest and I had to refresh and come back in. And I think he said that this area is like the sweat pit of America or something like
I,
that right now.
I mean, it sounded like pit, but rhymed with ass. I don't,
Yeah,
I don't,
something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
It was something similar to that.
Yeah.
I don't,
So, well, it's
I don't
funny,
know.
and you'll get a kick out of this. So today, I had a cancellation this afternoon, and Wednesday afternoons we have three doctors in the office. And if you've ever been to my office, it's not big enough for three doctors. So I like to take Wednesday afternoons off. So the cancellation didn't bother me. So I'm like, you know what? It's a perfect day. I'm gonna go play golf. So I called the club on the way home and I'm like, hey, he's like, dude, we're wide open. Just show up. And so I show up and he's like,
Why? Because it's a
yeah,
bazillion degrees out
it's
there.
it's like 107 degrees, right? And so I'm like, I'm only gonna play 9 holes. And he's like, yeah, just show up. So I came home. I've got this like cold towel. I've got my water bottle that I bring with me. I'm ready to go. I get to the clubhouse and he's like, dude, I just let two groups off. And he's like, but you won't see a soul if you go off on the back nine. And I'm like, all right. So I go tee off. I'm playing by myself. It's great. I mean, it's really quiet. It's peaceful. It's hot, hotter than Hades out there. And the player ambassador shows up on the 11th hole, and he's like sitting up at the green. And I thought I was going to be in trouble for going off on the back nine. And he was like, "Oh, they told me you were going off on the back, so I just wanted to come make sure everything was okay." I was like, "Yeah, everything's fine." He goes, and I also wanted to drop off a card for the psychiatrist that I've worked with in the past because anybody who decides to actually just come out and play in this heat
That's
really
so
needs to seek therapy.
funny.
So I was like,
He's
all right,
not
dude.
wrong. I bet the
Yeah,
whole course was
yeah,
full of dentists, like
yeah,
all the dentists.
yeah. And he goes, and that would be why I'm the player ambassador. And I go, well, if you removed ass from your name, you'd be a lot nicer of a guy. And so he's like, oh, I'm going to have to use that. So as we're leaving today, I was like, hey, all kidding aside, I go, I think you were right. I do need the name of your psychiatrist because, man, the heat got to me today. It was like I played 11 holes and I was like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah,
So,
you just
but
wanted out of the office so
I
bad,
wanted out of the
and it's all
office. It was
really
fun.
good until about an hour and a half in, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"Terrible idea.
Terrible idea. Terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
Terrible
So,
idea." And also, can you comment, because I know a lot of people listening totally get this, the agony of coming back after vacation?
oh my gosh. Yeah, it was actually it, sometimes are worse than others, but
Yeah,
like this week reassimilating, um, it was just busy. That was the hard part about it. It was
yeah,
just busy. And fortunately, our new associate is there on Mondays, so that really helped ease the burden because my business partner, he hasn't been working on Mondays for a few years now. So like, if I come back on a Monday and I'm there by myself, three hygienists, booked crazy,
yeah, too
emergencies, the
much.
whole nine
Yep,
yards. But now that we have an associate, it really, really helped out. So thank you, Dr. Daly. You were awesome.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So it's really nice having somebody else in there.
Hey, when we were prepping for the show tonight, did you mention that you had a little history lesson? Because I'm totally geeking out on these. So far, we've learned about the invention of a composite compule, which many of us take for granted that many moons before some of us in this podcast were doing dentistry, there was a different way to do composites that was way less sexy and way less predictable. And then we talked about Doc Holliday, and that was awesome, and his whole journey in the wild, wild west of being a dentist, but also maybe a bit of a, I don't know, a badass maybe, or poor decision maker. I mean, you could kind of, you could probably throw a couple of different adjectives in there. Do you have something tonight?
I do, and it's not dental, but it is dental. And the reason that I say that is because um, I kind of went down a rabbit hole the past few weeks, just wondering what happened. And so, you remember when we were kids, and we used to watch those shows in like history class, like Where Are They Now and all that stuff. Did you ever have to watch that?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
where are they now? So I was thinking, one of our really good friends in dentistry is Laura Brenner Studholm.
Yep.
And she and Jess Metcalf, who's they've both been on our show, they're great people. And, I was thinking about the way that I met them. And do you know how that is?
Was it Smiles at Sea?
No.
Hmm.
It was a platform called Clubhouse.
I had
So
totally forgot about
So
Clubhouse.
I went down this rabbit hole, and I
Okay.
did this dissertation. And so I don't know if anybody remembers
Does anyone
Clubhouse.
remember Clubhouse? Is that like saying MySpace
Yeah.
or
Well, the thing is, it does still exist, but for a brief moment in time, it really felt like the future of social media.
yeah.
If you wanted to hear Elon, Mark, Kevin Hart, or Oprah speaking live, Clubhouse was the place to be. And during the height of the pandemic, it was really kind of a cool thing because Clubhouse was invitation only. So I remember all these Facebook groups like Nifty Thrifty Dentist, and then Elijah's group, and Paul's group, and all these people. When you joined, you got like 4 invitations.
Yep.
And so you got to hand them out. So I gave them, of course, to you and Jeff. And then I think I gave them to Lou and Ron at the time. And it peaked in 2021, and it was valued at $4 billion.
Shut up.
Yeah. Despite only having 10 employees. So that was $400 million of the company per employee, making it one of the most valuable startups in the planet at the time. It was a simple idea. There were no videos, no filters, no edited content. It was just live conversations. And once the room ended, it disappeared forever. It was never like recorded. So if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah.
So for professionals, it was incredible. Entrepreneurs, dentists, physicians, investors, industry leaders, they could jump into a room and have real time conversations with real people they'd otherwise never meet. And fortunately, I have met several of the people. And I remember I think it was every Sunday morning at 11, Laura and Jessica used to have their room. And somehow I just, became encapsulated by it. It was really good. And we would engage. Um, but then as people started returning to work, um, everything kind of started resuming in normal. And LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, podcasts, whatever, they all just started becoming what they were, and Clubhouse wasn't unique anymore. So it disappeared, the buzz faded, the users slowly drifted a bit away, and it's still alive. It's a shadow of what it once was. But they do think that at some point in time, it may come back, and because it was very unique content. And they always say that sometimes the first company to invent something isn't the one that changes the world forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the greatest contribution is showing everyone else what's possible. And that's exactly what Clubhouse did.
So it
So
does still exist.
it
There
does
are
still
still
exist.
people using it.
Hmm.
Who?
Yeah. I just found that unique. So, like I said, maybe worthless, but, you know, and
Who's
then I
using
think
it?
then and I also put together a bunch of funny things that patients say. So maybe I can throw one out there as we close with our
I
guest
would love
tonight,
that. And
and
then we'll just go from there. Yeah.
we can banter on it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, all right, let's do some news.
Okay, are you ready? Crazy people be out there.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm just here to report the news. Okay, guys. First off, I had seen this story last week. I kind of debated talking about it, and then I had a couple other friends who sent me the link and they were like, "Hey, did you see this?" And of course I did. So we're going to talk about it. John Christopher Williams, you know who you are, down there in Florida doing your thing. Uh, just so everyone is on the same page, he's now been indicted for tax evasion. Now, there's a lot of weird parts to this story, which is why I didn't originally bring it forward because I wasn't sure who's at fault here. Because I typically err on the side of thinking dentists are cool and awesome and the government is probably terrible. And so it must be something with the government that's wrong. And maybe still that's true, but let's just break down the pieces. So, according to the indictment, I'm going to capstone this from Becker's. Dr. Williams filed tax returns and paid associated taxes through 2013, then stopped entirely. From 2020 through 2023, he allegedly failed to report approximately 3.37 million in gross income and failed to pay roughly $100 million in personal income taxes. He also allegedly failed to report or pay approximately 133,000 in employment taxes from the second quarter of 2020 through the fourth quarter of 2022. Okay. But while this is all happening, he's pissed off at the IRS, as best I can tell. He reportedly sent invoices demanding $525,000 from the agent and various government officials and stated they could avoid payment by terminating the agent who was investigating him from her position and from future government employment. Needless to say, it didn't work out well for Dr. Williams. He's now facing tax evasion and employment tax, which will carry a maximum penalty of 5 years in federal prison. Obstruction count also carries a maximum of 3 years. So we'll see how this works out. I get it. I am all about standing up and trying to make sure that things are being done right. This doesn't look good for Dr. Williams, though. And it seems like this could not be working in his favor. So, anyway, just wanted to give you that. I know that's going on in Florida. It seems like the government is on top of that. Just really quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because we kind of talked about it a little bit, but there's a company out of Nevada that now has the DOJ involved. Basically, Steiner Biotechnology was selling, distributing products that may or may not have actually been the source from the places that they said it was coming from. Now the federal government is involved. They've been asked to stop 100% of distribution. I think the most concerning piece of this is it also included bone grafting material. So I saw a post today on Facebook asking or making a comment about how they buy hand pieces on eBay and blah, 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 blah. And is that okay or not? And their rep had told them that was unethical. I will tell you as a dentist, it is really important to be sourcing your products from FDA approved, validated, and verified resources. We shouldn't be buying things from international sources that do not carry the same type of scrutiny and investigation that happens over a long period of time. In addition, we should know where things are coming from. So, unfortunately, when you buy things on eBay, you can't be sure necessarily where they're being sourced, and you can't be sure that those items have been approved by the FDA. Now, you can't even be sure when you're buying from a US company if those products are being sourced correctly. So again, vigilance at its best. If it seems too good to be true from a pricing perspective, it actually might be. Long-term follow-up on a story. We have not talked about this in I don't know how long, maybe in 18 months or so. We talked about the FinCEN and the Corporate Transparency Act. All of these were just going to be extra regulatory steps and big fines for small practices that didn't complete the paperwork. Well, guess what, guys? You're pretty much exempt at this point. Any dental practice with fewer than 20 employees or less than $5 million in annual gross receipts no longer have to report beneficial owners' names, births, addresses, or identification details. I don't know if this makes any difference to anybody except just another piece of freaking paperwork to have to complete on a daily basis to verify and validate who you are and what you are doing. So I'm glad to see that go away. Larger corporations are probably still going to have to comply with this ruling, but I don't think, as a general rule, it's going to affect our majority population in the dental world. All right, guys, last one for the night as a follow up from last week's story. Remember, we talked about the ADA is seeking information on antibiotic prescription and they're re-looking at how dentists prescribe antibiotics. And we cautioned that they need to be very careful to make sure that they don't restrict doctors' ability to use antibiotics in a way that they seem judicious. Well, the Mayo Clinic is also offering an opportunity to provide feedback. And guys, for me, this one hit a hot spot because it is specific to prophylaxis and dental care related to hip and knee replacements. Now, our producer is going to put the link in the chat. You can go to mayoclinic.org/dentist and provide information. Tell them a little bit about your practice, how you're currently prescribing antibiotics. This might be an actual opportunity to move the needle towards aligning with what dentists believe and pulling away from what orthopedists believe. Dentists believing that we don't really need to be providing antibiotic prophylaxis for life. We don't really need to be antibiotic prophylaxis forever. We don't need to provide it for 6 months, 3 months, 2 months. Also, the biggest thing that I've seen is dentists or excuse me, patients don't need to withhold care from their actual physicians of the oral mouth, right? Chad, just because they're having a surgical procedure. And that has got to stop. Our inability to take care of perio patients while they're in this holding pattern for knee replacements and hip replacements actually makes their risk factors worse. So for me, I'm going to be jumping on this link. I'm going to be providing my feedback back to the Mayo Clinic. I want them to hear and understand what we're feeling on the ground every day. mayoclinic.org/dentist. Let them know what you think about prophylaxis and knee replacements and hip replacements. And with that, that's the news.
So, two things. One, there's a really there 2012, I believe there was a published article from the ADA and the American Academy of Orthopedics that basically said you don't need antibiotic prophylaxis. And don't quote me on the year, but it was, and everybody tended to agree with it. And then all of a sudden it changes. So I always defer to the physician. And then the physician turns it on us that says, yeah, they need it for life, but you need to prescribe it. Well, if you want them to have it for life, you freaking prescribe it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
prescribe it. But here's another thing, and I don't know if anybody feels this. And I mean, this is a great question for our guests too. I had a patient come in this week that we haven't seen since 2010, right?
Hmm.
And they're undergoing treatment for cancer, and the doctor sends the oncologist sends a letter over for us to release them. And who ends up being the horse's ass when you can't release them?
Right.
Who ends up being that? That's us. And so, who's got mud on their face? It's us. And I'm like, there were so many things that were going on here, and I end up being the bad guy because I'm like, I can't release you. I
Exactly.
mean, the drugs that you're having, you hear all the rot jaw stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's where you're headed if because you need extractions. I can't let you do this. And they're like, well, I've got
Yeah.
all this dental work that's going to cost this much money before, I do this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, and it's kind of like, to our patients out there that are listening, keep up with your work at the dentist because it snowballs and you can end up in a really bad position, that'll
Yeah.
cost you a lot of money. And medical insurance is going to say, this
I
was
was going to
before.
say, you could also make the argument that that's really where our worlds need to be coming together because those
Absolutely.
patients that need to undergo oral cancer treatment,
Yep.
whatever, and we need to deal with the oral issues, or even post-operatively. They've had all this nasty, terrible drugs that do terrible things to their bodies, and then their mouth falls apart. Like, they're ju I'm sure you feel this way. All I can do is, I'm sorry.
Well,
Like,
will medical insurance pay for it?
they
You know what?
will, but it's very difficult to get that covered.
And, you need to have your doctor write a letter for that
Yeah, it's very
because we're
difficult.
gonna need their blessing on this more so than mine.
Hey, Chad, before we bring our guest on, this has been sitting in my inbox for 2 weeks, and I really wanna bring it up because this is a big revolutionary, change. A friend of the pod, Chris Robinson, sent this to me last week, and he's like, "Hey, this is new, innovative, never happened before. Did you know that there is now an American Academy of Robotic and Digital Dentistry?"
No.
Yeah. So it's so fascinating, right? And they're gonna have their first annual meeting in September, September 18th and 19th in Oklahoma City. One of our good friends of the pod, Drew Johnson's gonna be lecturing there. So I think this is fascinating. I think it's opening up new doors. I just saw a video last week of a robot that did a full blood draw and did all different vials. Like, there was no other human in the room other than the patient. The robot came up to the arm, took all the different vials of requested blood draws that needed to be done by the physician. Zero, almost painless to the patient because they knew exactly where they needed to go. They used it like an ultrasound technology to find the vein or the artery that they wanted to go in. Like, completely fascinating. And I love that dentistry is like, we're here. We recognize this may be a part of how we move forward. Anyway, shout out to a lot of our friends of the pod that are probably a part of this new annual meeting. And Chris Robinson, thanks for sending that over to me. I wanted to make sure we put that out there for anybody that might be interested in seeing where robotics and digital dentistry are going to start coming together.
Pretty cool.
All right.
Let's start an American Academy of Artificial Intelligence in Dentistry.
Ugh, I'm scared of that one.
Yeah.
Then they take over.
Yeah. Can I introduce our guest?
I would love that.
All right. So, as we bring up our guest, I'm going to introduce him. This is Dr. Dominic Nuosce. And my introduction is going to be a little bit different than what he wrote because I'm going to go back, let's say about 3 weeks. And so I'm sitting in this lecture. It was a pathology lecture by our good friend, Dr. Ashley Clark. And it was sponsored by another good friend, Dr. Cam Winling. And so, as a dentist, you walk into a room and you gravitate towards your friends, right?
Yeah.
So there's a buddy of mine that I haven't seen in probably 10 plus years in this type of setting. And I mean, we've been friends for 30 years. So I walk right over to Ty. We sit down, we start talking, and the presentation starts. And I'm just gonna say, dude, you analyze everybody that walks through the room, right? You're like, I mean, I don't do a lot of local things, but when I do, I'm always kind of scouting out who's in there. Just A, who do you know, and B, what the hell's going on. And so I'm sitting behind this one dude, and the lecture starts going on, and then all of a sudden there's these like freaking great questions, like, and you're like, and as a dental nerd, you're like, this is my people right here. This is my people. I'm like, I gotta get to know this person. So the presentation goes on, and there's these questions, and they're like, other people are like, should I take a picture of that, send it to the pathologist? And there's this one dude that's asking all these questions, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we're in these. And Ty even texts me, he's like, this dude knows his shit, and I'm like, yeah, he does. Okay, so fast forward at the end of the evening, Cam's like, hey, we're going to dinner. And I'm like, all right. So we go. And who ends up sitting next to me? It's the guy that was asking all the questions, Dominic. And so we sit there and we start shooting the breeze. And turns out that we went to the same dental school. We went to rival colleges. He went to Texas A&M. I went to Texas, and we have their number the last 2 times. So just going to throw that out there because we'll see what happens this year. Um, he grew up about 5 doors down from my wife.
I
We
forgot that.
start we
It
start
was the line.
talking
I forgot
about
that. I'm
like
glad you said that.
where they grew up, and it's like Arlington. Where in Arlington? And I said, "What street did you live on?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So my wife lived on this cul-de-sac. You walk to the end of her cul-de-sac, which is about 5 houses. You take a left, and there's Dominic's house. Okay, so this is another connection. Um, and he practices fairly close by, but I'm going to let him tell a lot of his story. But we went through. This is where I knew this guy's in the friend zone because we went through quite a bit of wine that evening. And he says, "Do you play golf?" I say, "Yeah." He goes, "Let's play sometime." I go, "I got a tee time tomorrow at 6:50." And he goes, "I'm in." So we leave the restaurant. I'm like, "Yeah, this dude isn't in." So I text Jose Chow, who's also been on the show. I was like, "Hey, Dominic's joining us." He's like, "No shit. He's a cool dude." And I'm like, "Yeah." Dominic's there, first person in the parking lot that morning. We played golf, and then he even had another tee time that afternoon in Frisco at your sister's club, JB, where he's a member.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, what intrigued me the most about Dominic is he's originally from Akron, Ohio, went to A&M, went to the same dental school, UT Health Science Center in San Antonio, married his wife, Michelle. 2010, opens up a practice in Colleyville, Texas, or I'm sorry, in Frisco, Texas. And he's got 2 amazing daughters, Emma, who's 18, and Kate, who's 15. Some things changed in his life. He realized Frisco wasn't working out and decided to, one of our favorite words, pivot. And that's where I'm going to stop on the story. And I'm going to let Dominic tell us because I think there are a lot of dentists out there that need to know A, it's okay to pivot. B, how do you pivot? And C, how do you build the dream practice that we always dreamed of, but maybe you don't have? So, Dominic, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks. Well, first of all, when I showed up for golf, I might have been the first one there, but I was hungover.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair to play. So we need to play again when I'm not, so that I can play better. And
Yeah,
I also, Chad,
felt like a
played
75.
9 holes this week.
You
I played
what?
9 holes Tuesday,
Yeah.
and it was so hot that on 18 I hit a beautiful wedge in. Jennifer, I'm sorry if you don't play golf and you have to
Oh,
hit
you're
golf.
good. I get it all.
I hit a beautiful wedge in, just past the hole, suck it back to pin high. I have 6 feet for birdie. I missed the birdie putt and don't even care. That's how hot it is. Is that fair?
That was this afternoon. I
Yeah.
had 2 of those, and I could have cared less. As a matter of fact, I didn't even putt the par putt. I picked it up. I'm like, let's get on to the next hole and let's go because nobody's in front of me, nobody's behind me. I'm going.
Okay. Ethical question.
Yeah.
Do you report this score
No, I didn't report today.
as part of your handicap?
No, I played multiple balls on purpose just to avoid that technicality.
Yeah.
Exactly. See,
Yeah.
that's all I'm asking is people just
We're
want to know
smart
you're
guys. You
being
got to
ethical out
game.
there.
Got to game the system. All right. Well, anyways, enough about golf. Nobody came here to hear about golf. The only thing that I would correct you, Chad, as I sort of tell the story, is that the pivot that you're talking about, and there was no chance in our first couple of interactions to really get into this. My pivot was not chosen; it was required, and so I'll give you a little bit of backstory.
I left that part out. I was going to let you tell that.
Yeah. And the what I want people to hear the most is that I knew it needed to happen. My wife and I had talked about it for years. We just couldn't choose it, right? So we had in Frisco, I had a great practice, beautiful building, great staff, good patients, made plenty of money. We did all the things, right? I was quietly frustrated because we were growing disenchanted with the community that we served. My wife and I are both people that really believe in social responsibility and being a servant of our community, whether that's in church or your business or volunteering at the county fair or whatever. we weren't as in love with the community that we were serving in anymore because Frisco was becoming very transient. As we had the Cowboys and Toyota and JP Morgan Chase and now Universal Studios, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And we struggled, we'd have a family come in and say like, hey, I work for Toyota, but not today. Now I work for GM and so we're moving. And they'd leave and another family would replace them. So we were busy as all get out, but no one was ever really around long enough to have a relationship and for me to have the kind of practice that I wanted. And the day that it started, I got back from Spear and I went, and if I'm not mistaken, it was an airway workshop. And I loved what I learned. And the whole time I'm on the phone with my ENT and my ortho going like, hey, we're going to do all this stuff. And 2 weeks later, I come home, I tell my wife, I'm like, I don't even know who I'm going to do this on. Like, why do I even go and learn this stuff? Like, all I do is run a car wash. We just have an expensive car wash. That's it. I had hygiene for 3 doctors and restorative for 1, right? Because in Frisco, everybody's constantly, and I'm not dumping on Frisco. If you're listening from Frisco, you're doing well, great, enjoy it. It wasn't for us anymore. But the average family in our practice was like 35 with young kids, and they're all healthy and they don't need anything. So maybe we make a night guard for somebody. Maybe somebody bites on a cherry pit and we could do an implant. But I just wasn't motivated to be an awesome doctor anymore. And so starting in 2018, my wife and I started to kind of read the writing on the wall and say, maybe we need to make a pretty big shift. And every time we discussed it, even calling a broker friend of mine and saying, what practices are out there? Like, is there, what could we do? We were really always too scared to choose it, right? How do you turn the money machine off, right? How do you say, hey, we're going to just pick the family up, because when we do this, there's restrictive covenants, there's legality involved, and you can't just be like, well, I'll just bounce to this company. I mean, you have to pick your family up and move them. And then are you going to like the new thing better? And what if we don't make as much money? And I could go on and on about the questions, right?
I get it.
Every time I tell this, it seems so petty to me now, but it's truly fearful to sit and try to answer all these questions with your spouse or with your kids or whoever. Fast forward to 2022, summer of 2022. We've been through COVID. We did, all that stuff was done. We'd come back strong, and I am unhappier than ever. I just hate going to work. And if any of my former staff or patients are listening to this, I don't hate any of you. I loved you guys. You kept me there. You kept me engaged. I never hated that part, but I was struggling because I didn't want to learn anymore. I couldn't figure out how to grow the practice in a way that would allow me the freedom and the environment or allow me the agency to do what I wanted. And I even went so far, I'm not a corporate guy, right? So I'm a believer in privately held practices, and it's still that way to this day. But I know a gentleman who used to be my neighbor who's pretty high up in MB2. He's not a dentist. He's on the dollars and cents side. And I called him and I just said, hey, man, I don't want you guys to buy me. I said, but I'll buy the bourbon if you'll bring the perspective. Can you please tell me what I'm doing wrong? Because I bet you could look at my practice and just tell me what the hell is my problem. So he pretends like they're going to buy me, right? Pretends. And I send him every document that he would ask for if they were going to evaluate me. And a week or two later, we get together and I just say, okay, man, what did I miss? And he looks at me and he goes, you didn't miss anything. He goes, you're winning in every category you could possibly win. You're doing it all. He goes, and here's the shittiest part. He goes, let's say you looked at me real serious right now and said, well, why don't you guys just buy my practice and take it off my hands and help me with figure out whatever it is. We'd say no. He goes, we wouldn't even. What you're doing is something that we can't replicate. All right. And then I was really lost. And now I'm really hate to go to work because I have no more cards to play. I just run this expensive mouth car wash for the rest of my life and we collect the money, but I sort of freaking hate it. And then we all get COVID for the first time. in, I think, end of June 2022. It wasn't bad. We all had it. It was fine. We recovered. I did my week of quarantine. I tried to go back to work the next Monday. I made it through the week, but struggled with fatigue and all that. Again, nothing that anybody would think was out of the bounds of normal if we remember back to COVID times. That weekend, I told my staff, I said, hey, I made it through the week. Everything was okay. I'll rest up. I'll be even better next week. Monday comes. I don't feel better. I get to the office. I make it to about 11. And I'm sitting in my office. My hands are shaking. I can barely get a whole sentence out. I tell my staff, I got to leave, grab my keys and drive to the ER. They see me. I'm like borderline incoherent. Body's about to shut down. They do all this test. I'm not having a heart attack. I'm not having a stroke. I'm not going to die. And all my blood work looks normal. And so they're like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you can't stay here. Do you want some anxiety medicine? And I'm like, no, I don't. Something's wrong with me. Truth be told, I hadn't felt great for a year or two. I felt like something was off. And I told my doctor about it over a couple physical visits. Again, blood work's great. EKG's great. Nothing that they can find. I'm not gaining, losing weight. So I go home that weekend, or I take the rest of the week off, and I try to recover. The next day, I'm running a fever again. So go to the doctor. I have the flu now. So I call the girls at the office and say, I have the flu. Obviously, that was what was wrong with me. Let me rest up this week, and I'll be back on Monday. And everybody's like, okay, great. Get better, doc. We'll see you on Monday. So the next Monday comes. I still don't feel good, but I got to go back to work, right? So I'm the only doctor there. I got to go back to work. So I show up Monday morning. I make it to 9 a.m. Back to the ER. Can barely function again. And I called my wife on the way, just not to tell her I was going to the ER, but I basically just said, if I crash, like, call 911. I remember this phone call, like, I can get myself there the fastest, but be on the phone with me. And then if, like, the shit hits the fan and I disappear from the phone line, call 911, right? And you know in town about where I'm at. So I get there, same drill. Blood work's fine, EKG's fine. We don't know what's wrong with you, dude, but you can't stay here. I begged these people to admit me. Like, not even a joke. I said, just please don't make me leave. And they said, we don't have a reason to admit you. We get it, but you can't stay. So I leave and I go to my physician's office and I sit in the waiting room, and I'm that guy who we hate in our office. And I walked into the front desk and I was like, I need to see my doctor
today.
Yeah, today. I'll wait. I will sit in. Whatever. I'll wait. My physician's a lovely man. I've known him for 15 years. He comes out in the waiting room. He's like, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, no. He's like, come on. And I think he probably heard my voice, because I would imagine I wasn't quiet. And he takes one look at me. He's like, dude, you are in a bad way. So we talk for a while. I just stay there. I'm so grateful that he just kind of let me hang out there, because I felt safe at a medical facility for whatever reason. And we do a bunch of blood work. We find out that I had mono years ago, like a lot of people did a long time ago, whether you had it as a kid or an adult or whatever. That was popping back up on blood work now as we were digging in to stuff. Basically what they figured out is that I had like a viral storm almost, but it was because my immune system was just trashed as we looked into all the blood work, right? So the regular blood draws they get when you go to the ER for your physical wasn't showing anything, but we really dug in. They basically said, man, your immune system's wrecked. And we don't know why. You got COVID, but you're a healthy guy. I mean, you run, you don't eat crap, you don't drink too much, your weight is stable, all these things. He basically just said, you need to take some time off, man. I don't know what to tell you, but you need to rest and get better. Like, don't kill yourself trying to be everybody's hero. I didn't like it, but I could barely function at this point. I mean, I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything. I was scared to drive my kids around for fear that I would crash. I wasn't sleeping anymore, right? I'd sleep maybe an hour or two straight, and then I couldn't, and I'd pace the house in the dark at 3 o'clock, worried about whenever they figured out what was wrong with me, what on earth was that going to be, right? At 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like looking into your life insurance policies and being like, should I put together a list of people my wife should call if like I don't wake up tomorrow? Like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I love Jesus, but I curse a little bit. So you guys, I apologize.
You're good. We do
3 o'clock
too.
in the
we
morning,
curse a little bit too.
you're fucking like strung out to all get go. You haven't slept in a month. Your body's betraying you, and you start thinking some really dark stuff, right? And some of it's protective, some of it's crazy, but it's not a good place. I did this night after night after night, and I started to get better slowly, but I was just struggling. My body literally was falling apart. I had all these digestive issues. My gastro was keeping me alive with like 7 different medications, everything from food going in to food coming out. I had a medication that took down the physiologic chain of command through your body, from nausea to reflux to gastric motility, gastric emptying, bowel motility, you name it. One of them I even had to sign a waiver for, because it's if you take it long enough, you're guaranteed to get tardive dyskinesia, and it's permanent.
Cool. Awesome.
And so for him, he's telling me, he's like, dude, we got to get you some food, like some nutrition, and you got to get some food in. He goes, we need to get your stomach to clear. He goes, I got a medicine that's going to work. He goes, but you can't take it too long. And for me to write you the prescription, here's this waiver that you have to sign. Waiver, yes, it's crazy. So we battle through all these things through the fall. We get to November. I haven't worked since late June, right? I haven't been in the office at all.
Who's covering your practice?
We got some locums tenens through a temp agency initially. That was a hot mess.
Of course.
Not because anybody that we brought in was like unethical or immoral or bad. They just, you guys know, and people listening to this know, your patients don't trust you. The locums tenens doc says, hey, I think you need a crown. And they're like, okay, well, great, but not from you.
Yeah.
And they don't
I'll
say
wait
this.
for Dr. Nuosce. He'll tell me what I need.
Yes, I'll just wait, right? We didn't know when I was going to be back. I was so grateful for a gentleman who was able to help me 2 days a week. He was retired, and he was able to come in every 2 days, and he came enough weeks in a row that my staff really got to love him, and patients felt like they could trust him. Chad, kind of like you mentioned meeting me, I think people could just tell right from the get-go meeting him, like, hey, I can trust this guy.
Yeah.
Right. He's okay. And I broke my tooth and I need to get it fixed. Like, Nuosce's not here, but I'll let this guy fix it. So he literally kept us sort of floating, even though every month we're in the red. We're just less in the red thanks to him. October comes, my wife and I say, enough is enough. We can't live like this. And I drive to the office, and I have a panic attack in my truck. I'm like crying my eyes out, and I like pull myself together, and I go in at lunch, and I think my staff was really assuming I was coming to say like, hey, I'm doing great. Here's when I'm coming back. And I said, guys, we got to sell practice. I said, I can't. I said, this is tearing my life apart. I said, I'm not healthy. My family's emotional state is a mess. It's affecting our kids. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we aren't going to keep doing this anymore. And this is what we're going to do. And so we found a buyer. My practice was like, it made money. I mean, just not in the last couple months, but all of our data. I mean, you could literally walk in. We had new chairs. We had, all the things. We had full hygiene. I mean, you just go. So, I sold it in a second. Got the new owner in January, and then I'm finally free. I decide to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And I go to this internal medicine doc who's a functional medicine guy on a whim. My sister-in-law calls me. Melanie, if you're listening, I know you're not, but God bless whoever told you this. She says, I got a friend who has some autoimmune issues, and she got into some environmental stuff when she was doing some mission trip overseas, and it really messed her body up. And she found this guy, and he really helped her. And she goes, I don't know if that's going to help you. She goes, but I got this name. And I was like, well, shit, okay. I mean, I literally have nothing left to lose at this point.
Right.
So I make an appointment with this guy. I go in.
Mind sharing his name?
Say again?
Do you mind sharing his name?
Yes. Why have I blanked since I got put on the spot?
It's not a Ryan, is it?
No.
Okay.
I will think of it in a second, and I'll circle back,
Curious.
and I won't forget to say.
Okay.
He's in Richardson, Texas.
Huge believer in
And
functional medicine
Alfred,
here.
I'm sorry, Alfred Johnson. Alfred
Okay.
Johnson.
Okay.
And I went in to see him. It's all cash, by the way. Insurance doesn't pay for any of this stuff.
Yep.
And
There.
the intake appointment is like 3 hours. I spend an hour filling out paperwork. It's like a packet. There's like free response sections. It's not check boxes. Then I spend an hour with his PA where she takes a detailed history of me, like literally writing my story, going through line by line all the things we talk about. Then I wait to meet with him. He comes in, reads the synopsis, examines me. We talk for a while, and he looks at me and he goes, "I know what's wrong with you." And I said, "Okay." Now keep in mind, this is the first guy that hasn't looked at me and offered me anxiety medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, "I get it. You feel terrible. You should. I know what's wrong with you. You have a mold issue." And he said, "I think that your body's been dealing with it for a long time. And because you're healthy, you found a way to just push through, even though you didn't feel great. And then COVID turned the screws and it dysregulated your body's ability to keep it at bay. And you went from 3 out of 10 on the volume to 10 out of 10. And your body just shut down. So you guys have doctor brains like I do. I'm going like, sure, dude. I mean, this appointment was expensive. Like, okay, I have a mold problem. I don't have any water damage in my house. I don't have any whatever. And $2,000 worth of tests later, he proves to me, because he's like, I'll prove it to your brain the way you think that this is an issue. And he proves to me that I'm a walking petri dish for mycotoxin. So I go home and I'm like, I got to figure out where this is coming from. So we have an environmental testing company come in. They test the house. There's some suspicious test results. So then they they punch little holes in the wall and then suck air out of the wall space and test it. Anything over 10,000 spores per cubic meter is dangerous. Like, it's unhealthy. You shouldn't live there. You shouldn't work there. Our numbers came back at over 300,000 spores per cubic meter in the wall space of our house. Beyond that, there was sewer gas in there. So to fast forward through a long process, we found out that there was a vent pipe in the wall in our utility room that was fractured, where it tees up. So the drain line goes down, it goes into the wall, and it tees up to the vent. And crap and waste and water go down, and gas that it exchanges go up, and it goes up, and it vents out your roof. And they vent out your roof because sewer gas is dangerous. It's in the same category as gasoline fumes. It's toxic. It's lethal. We were getting in our house little baby doses that would come out every time you'd open the faucet in the sink. A little air and water would exchange, and we'd get a little bit. Or in cracks in the walls. Your house isn't hermetically sealed, so every cabinet, every can in your ceiling, nothing is sealed, and gas leaks out. I have a gene defect that we found out that 25% of the population of the world has, and I don't eliminate the toxins well, right? I don't produce as much glutathione as other people do. And then the pathway for it is a little bit broken. And so I was basically breathing this in for a couple years until it slowly built up in my body. And then your body can't get rid of it. So you start becoming exposed to the mycotoxins, and they're a neurotoxin, right? They can cross the blood-brain barrier. So they look for fatty tissue. It's why my digestive issues were a mess. It's why I was having light sensitivity, panic attacks, nightmares, couldn't sleep, you name it. And then COVID, like I said, set it all on fire. So I spend the rest of that year going through treatment. It's a bunch of supplementation to basically drive the toxins out. I spent 4 months in a hyperbaric chamber, Chad, which is why I asked that question the other night.
Yeah.
I spent 4 months in there 3 days a week. And my job was to eliminate something that I'm allergic to, essentially. And so every day I took supplements, and 3 days a week I sat in a hyperbaric chamber, and it would force this stuff out of me. So by 2 or 3 o'clock, I could feel it come where my body is expelling some of the stuff, but you have to pee it all out. And on the way out, I'm allergic to it. It was hell, right? But we were determined to go through it because we knew what we were dealing with. And I was watching myself come back to life, right? And then the game became, well, okay, well, can I get all of me back? And so, like I said, we did the glutathione, we did the hyperbarics, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, I mean, you name it, met with a therapist, I did all the things, and I got all of me back. So, and I apologize that story is so long. It's hard to leave anything out, but
Dude, it's an amazing story, and that's why you're here. So please.
yeah, yeah. So now it's 20. Yeah, now it's 2023. No, I'm sorry. It's 2024. Holy shit. So got sick in 22, sold the practice January of 23, spent all of that year trying to get better. By the spring of 24, I'm finally, I'm like, I'm a real person again. Timmy's a real boy. It's time for dad to go back to work, right? So I put out feelers to everybody I know, and I just said, I don't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be happy, right? I didn't go to hell and back to hate going to work, but I really miss my brain. I was so bored. My brain needed something to chew on. I missed people. I knew I wanted to be back in front of people in some capacity, and so I put out feelers to everybody. Just say, hey, I'm back. I'm looking at every option. And my phone rang off the hook for the first 2 months. Every DSO group you could possibly imagine must have called me. You guys had Eric Romans on a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, and he said something really impactful that their issue isn't a clinical issue; it's a behavioral issue.
Yeah.
Right. And I would tell you that is 100% true, but it goes to the highest level because all the DSOs have a second issue. It's not just with their associates having that behavioral issue. It's that they have all these de facto operating partners in place and they're all retiring. And they don't have a problem making money, but they will when they have to replace them with somebody that has the behavioral dysfunction that Eric Romans talked about. And I would love to talk to him at some point because I'm writing a book right now about purpose-driven practice and leadership and some of these skills. And I'd be interested to hear how our two thought patterns sort of connect in the middle. We won't go any farther into that, but
We can make that connection tomorrow.
yeah, but put us together.
Yeah.
But I quickly realized that the DSO, like, let me go in and be a partner somewhere, and I'll help them do this, wasn't going to work because we just didn't see eye to eye, and there were things that I just wasn't willing to fudge on, right? So I made a list of the 11 things that I wanted / needed for my professional life to be successful, for me to find fulfillment in it. And then I went and highlighted the ones that were absolutely the seed of that. And there were 4 of those 11. And if I could find an opportunity that checked those 4 boxes, whatever it looked like, I could grow the rest, right? Because I've always believed in myself. I've always bet on myself. And I think I have the skill set to do whatever. And I was healthy again and I felt great. So I was like, let's go. We found a practice that was pretty damaged. And I looked at a lot of private practices, probably about a dozen. I said no to some that were like, I'm talking money makers, but out in the middle of nowhere. And I got kids in high school and, we'd have to move the kids somewhere where, like, my daughter couldn't play soccer anymore. Like, it was that far away from anything. So I wasn't going to trade money for any of that. And I found a practice in Colleyville it had been pretty damaged. A wonderful provider owned it for 35 years. Everybody loves him. Somebody bought it and that person was a great clinical dentist. But again, the way Eric talked about, it's why I bring him up. The behavioral skills and the patient management and the leadership wasn't there. And the practice was literally burning to the ground. I bought it. And it took us a while to get it turned around. But the minute I was there, we knew it was the right thing. I had a lady the second day. I did her exam. We chit-chatted for a while. I told her about my story and we got up and I walked her to the front and she stopped me in the hallway and she grabbed me by the hands and she said, I'm so glad you're here. We've been waiting for you. This is like day 2. Okay. The whole week was like that. It was like hygiene ran late all week because everybody wanted to talk. And I had people just stopping by that they heard somebody new was in town and somebody told them they should come by and meet me and they would stop by and talk. And the staff didn't mind because they were having a blast. I get to the end of that week on Thursday and I lock the door. I set the alarm and I lock the door And I don't know why out loud I said it, but out loud I said, I'm supposed to be here. And I got in the truck and I called my wife and I'm crying. It's a mess. And I'm like, baby, I don't know what is coming because we ain't making any money yet, but this is where we're supposed to be. And out of that is really what allowed me to see how valuable purpose is, and that the leadership that's required to do it is a skill that needs to be taught to people coming behind us. But back to the original introduction, Chad, we talked about a pivot. How do you do that and all of this? If I know this isn't what you were looking to get at, but this is kind of where we ended up. I got so many phone calls from everybody, doctors, people who weren't doctors, that just said, hey, I heard what you went through and what you're doing, and can we talk a little while? And I had a friend who called me and just said, hey, I'm not happy either. I make more money than I make so much money, I don't know what to do with it all. He goes, but I hate it. I'm drinking too much. I'm short with my kids and I'm frustrated and I hate it. And I'm kind of starting to hate me and I want to stop. Is that how you felt? And I said, yeah, man, let's talk. And it became obvious that this issue is out there. It is wildly scary to turn the money to zero, right? And watch all your cash reserves go to zero and look at your kids and say, I don't know what's going to happen, but like dad believes in what he's doing. And I apologize, I have to drag you guys along with me, but we're going to do it. I think that if you are out there and you feel like you need to make this change, what I would encourage you to do is not internalize it all. Start saying it out loud to the people you love. Tell people what you're afraid of. Tell people what you think you might want to do, and you will be surprised at the answers you get. My kids looked at me and without a breath said, Dad, go do it. You get to be happy too. And I was floored, right? When I was between offices, when I wasn't working, I went and actively met in person with a lot of my mentors. I drove to where they were or whatever, and just said, can we go to lunch? Can I spend the day with you? Whatever. And we just talked, not about dentistry. We just talked without agenda. And I said, I just want to talk to you because you're important to me. And you would be surprised the things that you hear. You think that somebody's going to tell you need to get your shit together. And the stuff I heard made me really believe that everything that we had done before was so good. I just hadn't packaged it in a way that I could feel fulfilled. And so I spent to take care of patients, take care of staff, take care of community, take care of my family. And I kind of forgot to take care of me until I just hated it all. And then I don't think God made me sick to make me listen. But I think I got one more tap on the shoulder and said, dude, I'm going to tell you one more time. And if you don't get it now, then we're not going to talk anymore. And I listened. Now, I didn't have a choice, but I didn't have to go back to dentistry either, right? And I will tell you that sitting here today, I make less money than I made before. Don't care. That is fluctuant, right? That's just a static moment in time. That will change. I am having so much fun. I love going to work. I love my staff. I have genuine fulfillment in what I do. And to boot, I am doing the kind of dentistry that I always wanted to do. I have to be a doctor again, right? We have an older patient base. We do more medically compromised cases, not like I'm sedating people in the office, but we do more multidisciplinary stuff. We do bigger, larger cases. I don't just want a car wash anymore. And it's awesome.
We mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I'm not sure that you were listening, but we were talking about when you were in the backstage, we were talking about a great friend of ours, Dr. Laura Brenner Studholm, and I need you two to meet because Laura has a very similar focus. Mm-hmm. But the question that you need to ask yourself when you're having all these troubles is dentistry for you? And, right. Because there's a lot of people that are in this profession and they're buried in they may be making a shit ton of money, but they can't be happy up here and in here. and they need to ask themselves, is it because of dentistry, or do I need something else? And I think in your case, you needed dentistry. In Laura's case, she needed something else. But I think there's a lot of synergy between you and Laura, because Laura helps people find that something else. And I think your synergy could be to help people find their happiness within the profession, because I think a lot of what you said resonates with a lot of people. I mean, JB, do you
100%. I mean, how
a
many
hundred
guests have we
percent?
had on this show who've had, I think on average, three versions of themselves in clinical dentistry?
Yeah,
They've had the early dentist, the mid-career dentist, and the late career. And they've all sort of evolved, and it took risks, like what you said, to go from nothing, to sort of make a decision and then say, I'm going to risk all that. The bank account's going to do what it's going to do, but my health is demanding this, and I can't serve people if I can't serve myself.
yeah,
And the interesting thing is, while yours was forced and sort of coerced you, I guess, to make the choice, so many dentists somehow come to that same place. Like it's been a very interesting journey. We've interviewed, I don't know, 350 people at this point over the course of 4 or 5 years, and that journey has played out over and over and over. And I feel it actually in my own life, that who you were from, we'll say, years out of dental school, 0 to 5, 5 to 20, 20 to 35, if you're lucky to be able to practice that long, those people don't look the same. And if you're lucky enough to practice for that long, it evolves into a very crazy, weird, like if you were to tell your 35-year-old, if you were to look back at you graduating from dental school, Dominic, and say, hey, here's the crazy shit that you're about to go through. Buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about to get wild. Like, it would blow your mind. And it would blow your mind that you would take the risks and be bold and do it for your family. And I think it would also blow your mind how much your family, your kids, and your wife supported you through that entire process to say, you first, we'll figure out the rest. We got
Hey,
it.
hey, real quick question, Dominic. Is Michelle there right now?
She is. I think she's
She
running
left
errands
him.
in the dog. She's
That
in the media room, I think.
Well, if she's presentable, you bring her in there. I want to say something to her.
Hey, babe, can you hear me?
she's like, dear God, don't put me on a camera. No wife wants that call.
You want to come here for a minute? I'm going to pay for this later. I just want.
Yeah,
to
you are absolutely going to pay for it. Is she going to hit you?
Nope. No makeup, running clothes. She's out.
All right. Well, hey, is
Oh,
she within earshot?
Here, come here. Just stand over here so they can.
You
hear
don't
you.
you don't need to you don't need to get on camera.
It's a podcast for dentists. Like Taylor
Yeah.
Swift is
no,
not watching
literally,
this.
we don't.
All right.
care.
Michelle, you don't need to get on camera, but I just want to say something to you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, how you doing? I'm Chad. I live in Keller. I'm not too far from you. I met your husband a few weeks ago. Amazing guy. Other person on the podcast is Jennifer. Say hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hi.
So Dominic just told his life story, and I just want to tell you something, that you're a freaking rock star, because you're the biggest star in his story, and the way that you supported him is awesome. And I think we all wish we had a Michelle in our lives. And I know that I do. I know that JB does, and her husband Brian. I know that I do, and my wife Ellen. But you are a rock star, and y'all are the type of people that we want to be friends with. So just you're awesome. He mentioned your name probably 200 times tonight. So
Yeah.
I just thought we needed to bring you somewhere close by. So there you go. Go on a shopping spree. Go do whatever the hell you want. Go spend the money that he's not making yet.
Yeah. Remember, we make less money now. If you
Who
guys could have seen
cares?
her face
Yeah.
when she like poked around the corner, and it was like, we're never gonna
Oh.
have sex again. Like,
Yeah,
You're
you're
dead.
screwed, by the way. You are
Dude, my wife would
screwed.
have done the same thing, but
Yeah, thank
that's
you.
that's what makes
Thank
them
you.
awesome. Go enjoy your night. I just had to let you hear that. So anyhow, Dominic, I think we got half of the story.
So there's a lot more to this that I think if you really want to educate people, and I'm not trying to invite myself back.
No, you're coming back. you're
Yeah,
coming back
there's a lot
because
more to this that we should talk about before that to kind of outline it out, because if we really want to help people understand how to make this choice, I learned a lot and was very intentional about this to the point that I am writing a book now, because that's what everybody started telling me. You got to write a book. You got to write a book. And there's a lot of it that I think there's a roadmap to when you make this choice and let's say, Jennifer, like you said, hey, I'm going to sell my practice and I'm going to start something over. There's a void there that you have to exist and walk through.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out how to find your way through it. And that's what I would love to do, is help fast forward people to, here's what I want you to think about. Here's the personal work that you need to do. Cause it ain't fun. It's hard. Like, it's a lot of crying and it's a lot of scary conversation. It's writing down stuff that you don't want to write down. Cause when you write it down, it's real. Or you say it out loud, it's real. And it's all of those steps, I think, that are necessary.
I think totally valuable because we've had a ton of people on here who've talked about it, but I also have a ton of friends that are going through different stages of whether, Chad, we've talked about this, whether they want to be a dentist anymore, whether it's fulfilling whatever and finding their peace. So I think any advice, pen to paper, that you could provide to them of what that process feels like is for them to go through, because I think they get very locked into, and I have felt the same. I'm sure you all have felt the same as well. Well, I can't do that. That would be very hard. What would I do with this? How would I manage that? How would I do this? How would I,
Listen, it is hard. It
right?
sucks.
It is
Yeah,
hard.
it's gonna suck. You have to embrace the suck.
Right.
Right. Who coined, was that Simon Sinek coined? Is that like a chapter out of one of his book,
Embrace
Embrace
the
the Suck?
suck. Yeah.
I'm almost positive it is, but that's the thing, is that I would want to tell you, like we tell our patients, hey, here are the steps along the way that we do this, that you're going to hate me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's going to get better, but these couple
Oh,
things.
that sounds
you're
like
not
my
gonna,
denture conversations.
yeah,
Embrace
it's the
the
same thing.
suck.
I would just do it for your life and just say, hey, here are the moments where you're really going to push back on yourself and be like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do, JB. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there
Okay.
because I was actually filling out right before this presentation. I was filling out a deal for the Texas Dental Association. Or like, is part one a requirement for part two? And I was like, yes. So part one is a requirement for part two. But tomorrow we're going to look at the calendar and we're going to get you on for part two. And part two is going to be what you did differently. And if you don't mind maybe sharing a little bit of those 11 things
Teaser, if you
talked
will.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say this. I have looked and looked and looked, and I do not have any of this stuff anymore.
No, but just
I'll try to recreate it. The reason I don't have it is
the four things
that when I got better, we bought the new practice and we got started. Part of me putting old me to bed. I like a girl who puts all her boyfriend's crap in a box and burns it.
Yeah.
I got rid of it all. And I wish I had kept it, had only I known I was going to write a book later. Because I also had a sticky note of things personally that I wanted. Like it all fit on a sticky note. It wasn't very many things. It was like 2 things. Right. It's like loving your family. I have to. So I'll see if I can recreate it and come up with it.
And we can just talk through it. Just what are you doing differently in your new practice? Because I think that's really important to do. But I really do think that there needs to be a part two, because there's a lot of your story that people need to hear. You're a great storyteller. It was awesome. But I as we close, I want to close with this. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being so open. I want to thank Michelle again. I mean, she's obviously freaking amazing.
We're not going to get to thank Michelle again. Okay, I think one and done is for her.
She actually just started filling out paperwork for a divorce.
Yeah, just rhetorically. Thank you, Michelle, for helping this guy find his sanity. You and I can connect over wine and golf and talk about some things that we want to talk about on part two. But one thing that I want to share is that just want to reiterate, if you're in trouble in your practice, the biggest question that you need to answer is dentistry the path forward for me? Because if it's not, there's a way out. And if it is, there's a way out. And so there's a way to better, I should say, if dentistry is the path forward, because I think you chose dentistry. You chose, I mean, you did.
Yeah, my hope is to choose dentistry I
Yeah.
think that there is more. I think that what I'm trying to bring to the world now is really more than just dentistry. Is it medicine? Is it how we should be talking to all doctors? I have friends in private equity that want that see the same need inside of the C-suite level. I'm having the same conversation with a friend of mine in that regard. I think it's really just people, and that's where I told you it comes down to purpose driven practices, whether you're a medical professional or not, and whether or not you want to be a leader, and can you learn how to do that?
Well, I love it. So stay tuned. Come back for part two. Dominic, thank you so
Yeah,
much
you
for
bet.
being here
Yeah,
tonight.
sorry to run long. It's a long. I won't tell that story again next time.
No,
It was
man. I think
perfect.
it was perfect. It was fantastic. It was everything that we needed and wanted. So, folks, stay tuned for part two. And that's all we got for tonight.
Have
Thanks,
a great
everybody.
night.